Good morning, CLC. Welcome to another lovely Sunday. I hope you all have had a fantastic week, and I hope you're looking forward to an even a more amazing week coming up. With that, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. We are grateful for you. We are grateful for your support. And now I ask you to join in saying with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And now, I invite you in this moment to just relax. Take a few deep breaths, collective breaths, putting your day and your week aside. Anything you have coming up, just let it go for right now. Allow your mind a moment to rest and be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. In visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass, in seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present with me in the room this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I am grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in gratitude and confidence in saying, I am grateful for the good in your life. Grateful for the good in your life.
There's a couple of things about the tradition I'd like to quickly go over. One is that this is Passover's first day of 8 days. In the tradition of Passover, some of you may know that children and other people are allowed to relax at the main dinner that happens the night before. It's called the Seder. They get to put their elbows on the table, and that's why I'm really schlumpy today and have my shirt tail out. Besides, I won't scratch the guitar. And the other thing is that there's a favorite song which is called Dayenu, and it means it would have been enough. This is Jesse's favorite song, so we're going to do it for him. And what it means is that all the blessings and all the good things which come to you in this life, that the blessed Spirit of the world gave to the people of Israel and all of us. Even if one thing had been given, it would have been enough. It would have been enough just to have life. It would have been enough. It would have been enough to be given freedom from slavery. It would have been enough to be given the good book, the Torah, the Bible, all the laws. It would have been enough if he'd just done that. If he'd just given manna from heaven, it would have been enough. But he did all these things, and so we sing Dayenu, which means it would have been enough, and we promise you that when we finish, it will be enough. And Brian has learned the Hebrew for us here.
We'll see.
And so, Mazal Tov, means good deeds. Whip it out, Brian.
What? Okay.
We're going to do the chorus for everybody first.
Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu Hotzianu, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, Hotzianu mi Mitzrayim, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu Karalanu, Karalanu et Hayam, Karalanu et Hayam. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. et Shabbat Dayenu. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Ilu natum natum lanu et haTorah natum lanu et haTorah Dayenu. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. One more time. Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. Yeah. Da-da-da-dum-dum-dum.
Still your favorite song, Jesse?
No. Yeah, that was gorgeous.
I love it. Brian Swan, it's Geoffrey Oshman. Two mensches of the first order. All right. Well, Geoffrey said a few things I was going to say, and I'll probably say them over. Oh, you're leaving me the guitar? Good. Beautiful guitar, that is. Hello, Creative Life. See, make sure my microphone doesn't fall off midway through here. So happy Passover, happy Pesach. Happy Holi. Holi. Hindu. Festival of colors. The colored dust, colored powder and water, and you throw it on people. And springtime. And the harvest. The harvest? The harvest. The winter harvest. There you go, the winter harvest. And then you turn all of this upside down for the southern hemisphere too, where it's now fall heading into winter. So, and it's Palm Sunday. And it seems like at this time of year, every weekend when we get together, there are like 3 or 4 or 5 different significant holidays and things going on in the culture. And there's also, there's a metaphor. Did I imagine, what are you laughing at? It's a metaphor. What a surprise. Story of my life, metaphors. There's a metaphor that probably is being used in a lot of centers this morning. There's a ship called the Evergiven. Now, isn't that, it's not funny, it really isn't, because it's bottling up, world supply chains, and also there are, I think, 10 or 15 ships that have livestock on them. The Suez Canal. The Suez Canal, this thing got crossways, and they're not sure how, the wind and some stuff, and this morning the president of Egypt ordered them to offload the ship using cranes, and they'll get the thing moved out. But I was thinking as a metaphor, Evergiven. The canal works. The seas on either side of the canal work. The process works, but something gets stuck in it. And that's the story of human spirituality. These are our issues, right? These are our issues that get stuck in the way. And they not only cause us to be kind of trapped in place, but all the traffic on either side of us. All of the people that we could be transacting with, that we could be meeting, all of the adventures that we could be having, all of that gets to wait in line while we work some things out. So just consider that. It's all given. That's been the series this month. The key to yourself. There's one key to yourself, only one key that you need, but lots of doors in lots of hallways. One key to yourself, which is the recognition of yourself as the experience that the divine is having in this world at this time by means of you. And everything else is a reference to that. Everything else is a metaphorical construct or something about that. The promised land, for example, which plays large in the story of Passover, the expectation of moving into the promised land. We're all heading into the promised land. The question is, who will we be when we get there? Who will we be when we get there? Because if we're not transformed, it won't look like the promised land. It'll look like the same old land. It'll look like the land of bondage. It'll look like the land of misery and longing, and it won't look like what we had dreamed if we're not ready for it. So we have to do the work within. The key to the self is that we are one with the divine, and from there on it stretches out into a paradox, which I'm going to talk a little bit about today, and then more next week when it's Easter, and then into this series that we're going to have throughout the month of April. This paradox of being spiritual beings and human beings at exactly the same time. It would be a lot simpler. These guys were singing about it would have been enough. It would have been simpler. It would have been simpler if we were one or the other. If we were just on the one hand, mortal beings born to live, suffer, struggle, die, boom, and be done with it. If that were the only story, or on the other hand, if you don't like that story, I got another one for you. On the other hand, that we're spiritual beings, we're angels, we're beings of light, we sail through the skies, and nothing phases us. Nothing affects us, nothing weighs us down. That's not the hand we were dealt. What we got in life was we're both. And we move back and forth between the two. So when you hear, for instance, a New Thought teacher speak about perfection, how everything's perfect, you might in your head riot. People do. How can you possibly say that? Look at this world. Look at what's going on. And not just today, and what's going on today is significant. But you could say this every year. You could say this every 10 or 15 or 20 years as a slice of history. You could say, look at this world. Look at the struggles here. How can you possibly say everything's perfect? Well, you have to redefine the word perfect. Away from flawless into all-inclusive, like a big circle. Everything is contained within the all, and because of that, the promised land and the land of bondage are side by side. Separated, it's said, metaphorically, by a sea. The sea, the water, represents consciousness, always has, in every sacred writing. It represents consciousness. Sometimes the water is transformed into wine, and the consciousness becomes of an intoxicating and an elevating nature, you know. And sometimes you just cross over the water. You just move through the consciousness from the one land to the other, only to discover it's the same land, just seen in a different way. And so everything that's going on in the world right now, I don't know who it was that said this. I want to say maybe Marianne Williamson, the idea that everything is either an expression of love or a cry for love. That's what I mean. Same land, same language, an expression of love or a cry for love, and it all is contained within the same circle of perfection or unity or wholeness or completion, an unbroken connection with the source. And so when we struggle, when we suffer in life, it's a reminder that we could be doing something more, I was reading something this week, and it said the key to racial harmony in the world is for people to find others who do not look like them, who do not have their same cultural background or ethnic background, and become close friends with them. And I thought, you know, our natural impulse is to become close friends with people who may or may not look like us, who may or may not share the same background as us. What stands in the way of that? The thing that blocks the canal, the canal of spirituality, the sense of limitation, the sense of otherness, of estrangement, the sense of fear and distance that we're taught. We spend a lot of time in this life trying to protect ourselves from things, other people. We tell ourselves other people are dangerous, untrustworthy. You don't know what they want from you. And gradually we shut down and we get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then you know what happens? Then we create, as a society, a pandemic where we get so small we all get to hole up in our houses and stay way apart from each other. And I said this a year ago when on the weekend when everything was shut down, that a year before that, the summer before that, so that would have been what, the summer of 2019, I read an article that said that social distancing is the worst thing that can possibly happen for human interaction and human evolution. Social distancing, holding up and everybody staying away from everybody else is so unhealthy. And then we created collectively as a world, the weight of this doesn't fall on any one person or any one group of people. It was kind of a collective thing in the collective consciousness that now we get, because we're fearful and distancing and all of this. Now we get told. We get told by science. We get told by a virus. Go home. Stay put. Keep to yourself. Now it's springtime. We're starting to come out into the world in a healthier way. Not yet here in this room, because we have a responsibility to the group. It's not just a matter of individual choice. I choose to be here on Sundays. A handful of others, to whom I'm so grateful, choose to be here on Sundays to do this, But gradually we're starting to make our way out into the world. And you know what we're finding? The same world we left. Until we change, nothing changes. Until we change inside ourselves. Am I willing to make the first move? Am I willing to trust? Am I willing to stand in my truth? This month being Women's History Month, I've been talking about, and in other groups we've been talking about different women of the past, women of the recent past. I told you about some Grammy winners, told you about these amazing women who work here with me, our staff on Sundays, to whom I'm so grateful, and also some figures from the cultural story that we are learning about from past times. And then this woman, Venice Bloodworth, who wrote the book Key to Yourself and the founders of New Thought. And when you consider that in the 19th century, she was a 20th century woman in the first half of the 20th century, but she got her grounding out of the 19th century women like Emma Curtis Hopkins and Mary Baker Eddy and the Brooks sisters and Ursula Gestefeld and Frances Lord and so many more, who had the nerve to stand up and say, there is a way. There is a way. Not speaking just to women. They weren't speaking just to people who looked like them. They weren't speaking just to their own gender. They weren't speaking just to their own racial unit, if you will. They were speaking universally to the world. You can do this. Much of what they had to say was about physical healing, because there was a great need for that in the world at the time. There were epidemics of rampant, smallpox, tuberculosis, polio, things that later we would control or stamp out altogether. Ravaged the population, domestic violence. There were no social services to speak of available to people at the time. There were no safety nets for people who lost their jobs or their homes, as you saw in the Dust Bowl in the Depression and so on. And so all of this had to be addressed in some way through spiritual means. That's where we get a lot of the healing teachings that come across in early New Thought. And also prosperity. Also the idea that, yes, you can rise up in circumstances. Yes, you do have access to the same power as everybody else. So I want to read you something out of Key to Yourself, and we'll riff on it a little bit today. She's talking about your true self. Your true self is the spirit of you, and the spirit of you is forever complete and perfect. Spirit cannot know any lack, limit, or disease. It is the conscious mind that places limits on us in accord with our education and environment training. There is no limit to our supply. The limitation is in our ability to receive. So we may broaden our conception of truth and enlarge our receiving powers by the use of affirmation, concentration, suggestion. You learn truth just as you would learn anything else by study and practice. That's the paradox I'm talking about. See, the forever complete and whole and perfect. And we go, no, I'm not. Yeah, you are at the spiritual level, at the truth level. Let's draw a distinction between truth and fact. And this could be a can of worms. This could frankly turn into a can of worms right here on camera on stage, because I know there's so much turbulence in the culture right now about what is the truth and what are the facts, having to do with the virus, having to do with everything else. What is real news? What is fake news? What is true? Who's got the story? Who's got the evidence? Who can back up their word? Well, that's the fact set of things. And then there's the truth of things. And the truth is a can of worms sometimes too when you talk about it religiously, as I will get into next month more. But the idea that one religion has the truth is completely bogus. They all do. They all do. And they all overlook it to the same degree. They all overlook it collectively to the same degree that we overlook it as individuals, the one truth that all religions have. What is that one truth? There is one life. That life is source. And that life goes by countless names that are culturally based and historical and ancestral. And the names are beautiful and wonderful, but they don't capture the whole story, the big picture of the one truth that is the one life. And this is what all religion seeks to express. Then what religion does is it says, okay, in order to experience that truth in your life, there are some rules. There's some rules ranging from 10 commandments to 39 articles of faith, I forget now, however many, and on and on and on. Scrolls of these things, rules for you to follow. And this is what religions bicker over, are these rules. Our rules are better than your rules. You're not following my rules, you see. You're following some other kind of crazy rules, and I don't. And if you really want to be safe, you'll come over here and follow these rules. And so I'm pulling at you, and somebody else is pulling at you. Everybody's pulling at everybody else to come into the right place and be safe with the right rules. So they focus on the rules. They focus on the marginalia of things. They focus on tortured interpretations of ancient texts to define modern behavior, what you should or should not be doing. All of that aside, there is one life. And that life is benign, and that life exists through everything, and it kind of stands back. If you could picture that life as a person, which I don't really suggest you do because we've had enough of that, but let's just say, for sake of argument, you picture it as a person that stands back kind of watching all of this with a thin smile, seeing all of the going on about what we do and when we do it and how it should all happen. Every now and then somebody comes along like, well, one example out of many is an Emerson, who said, get out of the churches and go sit under a tree. He said this, by the way, when he was a clergy person, in his short career as a clergy person. He said, go out, sit under a tree, commune with nature. Every Sunday, I get up here, or one of us gets up here and gives a talk like this, and then on most of those Sundays, Reverend Lisa goes outside and she takes pictures of the garden and the trees and the stuff that's blooming and everything like that. And I get such a kick out of this because on Facebook there'll be like, for the talk, there'll be X number of likes. And then for the nature pictures, there's like double that. We talked about this last year, and it's like, well, why are we even doing this? Let's just go film the garden. Because that's where a lot of people find their bliss. You know, if you do one of these meditation practices and they say, go to your happy place, nobody's happy place is in a church. Okay, it's a beach, it's a mountain, it's a, you know, drive-in movie. I mean, it's anything, pretty much anything you could think of besides sitting inside a solemn and stiff kind of a worship setting. In all religion, the truth is found. Only because in every heart the truth is found. People seek a story for the yearning that they have that they cannot explain, for meaning. If I'm hungry, I can explain to you. I'm hungry, I need to eat. You can hear my belly growling, you know. The needs that we have, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we can explain these. I can explain to you why I need clothes on my back because it gets cold. I can explain to you why I need shelter over my head. Nobody has been able to explain throughout human history the yearning that they feel in their hearts for a sense of meaning. So they're kind of private about this, or were, until a few people got together and started talking about it, and they said, you know, you're on to something. I feel the same way. And that was the beginning of organized religion. Then they said in order to fulfill this yearning, very often it was by repetition. See, somebody went somewhere and they had a spiritual experience. They went down by the river, let's say, and they sat there, and suddenly they had a moment where they knew, and they saw how everything in the universe fits together, and they heard this celestial choir, you know. Oh, they heard this upwelling of sound and color and beauty, which, for example, Holly with the colored powder seeks to recreate. They had this experience. And so the fact set around the truth for them became, you have to go down to the river. It's only at the river this happens, not at the beach, the mountaintop, the drive-in movie. It's down at the river it happens. And so then, once a week or so, everybody'd meet down at the river, and they'd stand around there, and one or two of them, or 5 or 10, would have a spiritual experience, and the rest of them would look at those that were having the spiritual experience and say, one day I'd like that. Maybe if I come down to this river enough, I'll do this. And the story became that everybody had to come down to the river, and anybody that didn't want to was wrong. And that's how organized religion got organized. Meanwhile, of course, there were people who went to the mountain and all the other places, and they decided the river people were wrong, and off you go. And if you throw money into it, you throw power into it, you throw natural resources and access to coastline and trade routes and all the rest of it, you get crusades and things, you know, and it really gets ugly. I'm not an opponent, personally, of organized religion. I think it does a lot of good. But I'm very much a fan of disorganized religion, which is the spirituality of the heart. And it's a little messy. It's a little random sometimes, you know. It has a structure, but the rules change as times change. I don't know always what to do. Do you? I bet not. But I know where to ask. I know where to go. I know where to turn. Past the noise, past the struggle, past the turbulence, to the one. And what do I ask it for? I say, tell me who I am. Remind me who I am. And it does, through metaphor. It doesn't just, into my head comes this whole new, like, knowing, or into myself comes this whole new personality. Instead, it conducts me on a journey. It takes me across the wasteland toward the promised land. It takes me over the hills and through the woods, where I meet other beings who have other things to say. It also takes me circling back into my past, where I pick up information that I didn't get the first time around, you know? And that's how this process works. Whenever you ask for spiritual awareness, you get a trip, you get a journey, a quest. It's very seldom that a book falls off a shelf and opens to a page and there's your answer. It's almost always experiential in how we develop it. And then you find as you seek a goal, which actually was the topic today, the set of the soul decides the goal, which is an Ella Wheeler Wilcox line, another terrific woman of New Thought, our poet laureate traditionally of the New Thought movement, and very popular in the mainstream as well. The set of the soul decides the goal. Well, I set a goal, and I set my soul, and she means like sails and stuff, you know, you position yourself to head towards your goal. As I move toward my goal, I go through a lot of countryside. It's never a super highway into my goal, never, okay? There are meanderings here and there. And this used to bother me, as I think it bothers a lot of people. It's like, why can't this just happen? And instead I have to, you know, but what you find is all of the meanderings are instructive. You find things there that you wouldn't have, and you have a fullness and a richness to yourself when you achieve the goal and arrive at the goal that you wouldn't have had you not had all of these escapades that seemed distractions, seemed miscellaneous. That's what I mean by perfect. It's all included. Failure is included. Delay is included. Obstruction is included. Everything that gets between us and our good is part of our good. It's part of our achievement of it. And people will say, well, you know, you couldn't really enjoy good things if you didn't have trouble. And I'm not sure I buy that on the face of it, because it seems like kind of a handy explanation. But you couldn't fully enjoy where you're going to arrive at next if you hadn't been where you are. That's a rough way to put it, but there it is, you know? Everything that we go through makes us the person that we are today. And we don't always get to decide what it is exactly we're going to go through, because it's a journey. So in conclusion, what I would like to suggest to everybody is this. It's Palm Sunday now, and I'm going to quote, obviously next Sunday being Easter, I'm going to bring Jesus into it heavily. And I'm going to quote something that he said 3 different times. It's real short and powerful and on point, and tell you what I think it means and so on. And as a run-up to that, he said this. He said, my kingdom is not of this world. My kingdom is not of this world. By which he did not mean to disparage this world. He was just saying, I'm not from here. I am here. I'm in this world, not of it. And he wasn't just speaking about himself. He was speaking about all of us. All of us. That we're not from here. We're from truth. We're from oneness. We're from fullness and wholeness and completion and all of that. Then we find ourselves here. And there's this, first of all, this apparently bracketed thing called life, you know, that's got birth on one end and mortality on the other. And then there's change. There's change in us. We're not the little kid we were. And we're not yet the elder that we'll be. You know, we're somewhere in transit into that. And there's loss. And there's confusion, and there's despair, and there's pandemics, and there's this, and there's that. And then there's beauty and wonder and springtime. And love and poetry and romance and music and more music and all kinds of music. I'm big on music. Music, 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 you know? And the final song has not been written. The last work hasn't been done. All of this is part of the package of the wholeness that we get to experience, the fullness that we get to experience. What you want and what I want is more of the fun stuff, is more of the fun stuff. So what do? We get ourselves ready for the fun stuff by looking real hard and real directly at the unfun stuff in us. Where are my judgments? Where are my biases? Where are my limitations? Where have I acted like I'm separate? And then defended that. Made compensations for that. Where have I shut down my heart? Even if I thought I had to, in preparation for pain. That's what I have to work on. And when I do, I open my eyes and I see this amazing world. And then true enough, like the Dayenu, which is, I can't honestly say it's my favorite song. It's a beautiful song. I love the song. It is absolutely my favorite prayer. It is absolute, of the formal prayers that have been written by the human species, I have yet to find one that surpasses the Dayenu, because it's original and it's creative and it's grateful. And you want a grateful prayer rather than a pleading, begging, mealy-mouthed kind of prayer. Oh God, I know you don't want to do this for me because I'm just a miserable wretch, but if you could possibly see your way clear to getting me out of this one, I'd be eternally... No, that's not prayer. That's whining and cajoling. A prayer is, man, look at this. Look at this springtime. Look at this meal. Look at this family of humankind. And the Dayenu is said, in a family setting. Passover, the family gathers. It's very, very intimate, personal experience. And for the human family, it would have been enough. It would have been enough. Just give us a break here and there. It would have been enough. A little bit of good, a little bit of lift some of our cares, it would have been enough. And instead we get all this. We get all this. As we fill our hearts with that knowing, we're navigating toward greater good, greater creativity, greater possibility, greater engagement than we've ever had before. So let's know together now, there is one life. That life is Hashem. That life is the name. That life is Adonai. That life is Elohim. That life is Krishna. That life is Christ. That life is all the life there is, this one life. I move through those names into the essence of this one, to feel my place in it, as the experience that Spirit is having of itself in this world at this time, through me. And all I must do is cooperate, participate, go along with the flow of goodness and loving kindness that passes by my door out into the world. Emerson said, place yourself in the midst of that stream of power, and you shall be conducted forward with no obstructions on either side. Place yourself in the midst of that stream of power, and you shall want for nothing. And the mountains shall break forth into singing, and the trees of the field shall clap their hands. For this beautiful springtime, for this sacred season among sacred seasons, and for this passage from the possible to the inevitable, I am so deeply grateful. I affirm and know for each person watching, listening, wherever you might be, right where you are right now, is all the power you might ever need, all the love, all the wisdom, all the guidance. I know that you know where to look. I know that you know how to receive and interpret the answers that are unique to you. I know for you an amazing time of personal growth, regeneration, and yes, even resurrection into wholeness. I release this word now, calling it done, and so it is.
So it is.
All right, gentlemen. Looking forward to this.
This is a song by Nitty Gritty Dirt Band that was in honor of treating our Mother Earth, the feminine, looking at the earth as on the feminine side, and how it nurtures us. I just love this song. Very appropriate for spring. sunlight. These are times when I am helpless. Mother Earth makes all things right. Birds still sing in the morning sun. Trees still grow on the mountain tops. Though I treat her carelessly, Mother Earth provides for me. Going on a journey, and I pray all things end well. Mother Earth will help me through it, and I will follow her naturally. Green trees grow on a mountain top. Birds still sing in the morning time sun. Though I treat her carelessly, Mother Earth provides for me. Mother Earth provides for me. Mother Earth provides for me. My Mother Earth provides for me.
Sometimes I think Danielle has the easier job because she gets to do announcements and that opening, and then I get to listen to all that and go, oh, and I'm the one that has to close it down. But I shouldn't think about it that way. Listen to me shitting on myself. I get to close it down. And I have all of this amazing material to draw on. So it really is just a shift in the language there. I get to close it down because I have all of this amazing material to draw on. I get to draw on the music, and I get to draw on what Jesse had to say. And I did the daily reading today from the 365 Science of Mind, and it was about simplicity. And then I heard Jesse say, there's one key. There's a whole lot of doors. There's one key. So it literally can be just as easy as that. It's a shift in the language. It's a shift in the perception. It's a shift in our mindset. It's a shift in our consciousness. I love a rainy day. And now I have that song in my head. It's going to be a beautiful day. And I have already been out in the garden taking pictures. They will be up after the service. And I did that yesterday. I went to a park that I only get to go to every now and again, and I got to take pictures of ducks. The meanderings are where we see the beautiful. The meanderings are where we see the ugly, and where we see the beautiful coming out of the ugly. It really is. If you strip it back down to the basics, it's life happening. And I get to be grateful for that. So I'm going to be grateful for that. And I'm going to be grateful for that in this way. I know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And I know that life is my life. I know that that love flows through me. I know that that presence walks this world as me. And as I know this about myself, so too do I know that about each and every one of you. I know that there is one life. That we all make up this great mosaic. And that we all bring a slightly different view to it. And as we talk, we create this pattern. It's beautiful. One life, one power, one presence, all gratitude. All gratitude. And I know this gratitude in the depths of my being, because this gratitude is what I am. This gratitude is what we are. This mosaic of gratitude, this mosaic of love, this mosaic of peace, this mosaic of harmony, this mosaic of life. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being. I relax, release, and know that it is so. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love it.
And so it is.
This is what it is.